Oh my gosh. Hello, everyone. This is working, sort of. Well, we'll see how long this goes, but we're going to give it a shot. Thank you so much for hanging in there. We unfortunately did not get to finish up the backdoors and breaches session. Very disappointed about that. But the good news is we used our sneaky cybersecurity hacking skills to pilfer the incident from those guys. And we have transferred that over to our DM for this event, who you'll be meeting in just a moment. But just to let you folks know, so this is a new game that we're trying out. We tried this once before back in March. I can already see that there's some more lagging and stuff. So we'll see how we'll just do this as long as we can. If we need to reschedule, we will. But let's give it a go. This is backups and bandwidth. And the idea is this is partially inspired by backdoors and breaches. But we wanted to take things away from just, okay, this is a game for security folks in terms of doing a lot of forensics and analysis that way. And let's really focus around more kind of IT admin recovery and restoring systems. So we have a scenario, basically that the idea is this last session, if we'd been able to complete it, we would have identified a scenario, a security incident, right? Now, our job, the player's job, and your job as the audience in terms of helping them is to recover from that incident. So with that, let's get into it. I'm going to introduce our players. Hey, Tom, how's it going?
It is going wonderful.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us. You are back. You are the only player we've had that has gone through this experience before. And here you are coming back once again to give it another whirl. Really appreciate that. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, the real Tom, and then if you want to, you could explain something about your character too, if you want.
The real Tom is an MSP in the Detroit area, and I've been in tech for a long time. Some of you usually hear me as Tom here from Lawrence Systems because I create a few YouTube videos here and there. So love technology, love talking backups, love talking storage. My character is much the same. You know, he's from the old realm of the ZFS class. So for those of you who don't get in on a joke, I do a lot of tutorials on ZFS and things like that. So I have a lot of experience with storage, love talking backups. It is also the nightmare scenario. So I say I'm doing great, but Jonathan hasn't told me how bad the situation is going to be here for our backup recovery.
Yeah. And this is going to be a little bit different than last time you played. So we're going to keep you on your toes.
Okay.
But Tom, thank you for coming, and thank Tom Tuxworth for joining the party. Okay, let's go to our next member. Oh, we have Ian. And hey. Ian. Oh, there you are, sir.
Jeez.
You get your full screen there for a second.
I did.
Well, it's good to see you, Ian, and thank you so much for coming on. Why don't you say a little bit about yourself? Ian, you let me convince you to come onto this from our Discord server. There we go. There you are. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then please introduce Master Sage Eon.
Yeah. So personally come from a MSP background. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. And just kind of, I guess you could say, like, looking at the roster, I'm the new kid, despite my character. But come from an MSP background. I've been doing that for several years now, in terms of just general, like, starting in low-level stuff and then working my way to sysadmin level and doing all kinds of server management and the network stuff. So that's my backstory. As far as Master Sage Ion, it's actually a character from one of my D&D campaigns. And I just kind of tweaked his backstory with, the kind of the humble beginnings background that I have, where IT was a hobby for me for a long time, and now here I am doing this as a living full time and hanging out with Ninja all the time, and it's been great.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, taking time out to do it. And yeah, you say you're the new kid, but also you are an experienced D&D guy. So I don't think you should sell yourself short there. I think you're going to be very valuable for the party. All right, awesome. Well, let's see who else is in your party. Oh man, this guy. We got
Me.
Jason Slagle. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. How about you?
So thank you so much for joining. This is the first time you're seeing your character, I think, illustrated. Hopefully that works out.
It is. It does. And it's occurring to me that I think we are a party of mages. So we're going to see how that works out.
Yep. Not a lot of melee, hopefully, involved in this one. That's kind of how whenever I play in D&D, that's how we all are too. We're all like druids or spellcasters. Yeah, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself, the real Jason, and then you can get into your character if you want.
Yeah, so Jason Slagle, president of CNWR. We're an MSP in the Toledo, Ohio area, actually about 40 minutes from Tom. Been around for a while. I don't know, I'm on a lot of these sorts of things, so I think I'm pretty well known at this point. As far as character goes, I will unabashedly admit I used ChatGPT to give me some hand here, but my character is born into a technologically advanced society where he is a chaotic good mage, and he likes to cause some trouble while trying to make things good. And I think that's a pretty accurate representation of myself too. So you definitely pull a little bit from reality in the character creation thing here.
Oh man, I love it. I love that you're getting into it. Excellent. Well, welcome to you. Welcome to Declova. Declovia?
Declovia. Yeah, it's my
Declovia.
game name. It was a randomly generated World of Warcraft name, and I've used it for like all the games I ever play. So
Oh, that's awesome. I love this comment from Greg in the chat. Melee attacking for printers. Okay. So anyway, Jason, thank you for joining the party. I think you have one more party member left. Let's see. Is Drew going to join us or not? No, Drew. Well, Drew Exotic, everyone. Maybe he'll join in at a very opportune moment. We shall see. So let's go past that then and introduce you to your DM. It was Liz Waddell from TrustedSec, a great company. TrustedSec has done a lot of stuff with us in the past. We've had Tyler Hudak on. Oh, there's Drew.
What's up? Is it lacking or is it just me?
Well, Drew, while we wait for Drew's setup to get going here, why don't we jump ahead and introduce Liz, the DM?
Hey, everybody. Thank you. I'm very excited to lead this band of heroes today. So as Jonathan said, I am from TrustedSec. My day job is an incident commander. So I lead bands of heroes through these IR adventures every day. I have been doing it for years. Prior to TrustedSec, I was with, Cisco Talos, KPMG, Mandiant. I have seen an incident or 1,000. So we're going to go back to Drew and explain his character, and then we can just jump into our game. All right.
Oh man, Liz, thank you so much. You've definitely seen things, and I think I love that you're going to be using that experience and knowledge to make our players' lives interesting. Drew, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you? I'm not sure if this is my connection or.
Drew Hackworth, I will say this. He is president of Polaris Technology. He is a great figure, active in tons of groups in the community. And once the mute spell has worn off, I think he'll be a great addition to the party. So let's dive into it in the interest of time. Liz, I'm going to kick it back over to you, and I think we're going to get down into our game board.
We are. Let's get in here. This will be exciting. So just a few things. I know there was some technical difficulties during the last game. Hopefully, like Jonathan said, we'll be good to go on this. What we've done is I have taken my, DM allowances to make some edits to things that may have happened in the last round, just to make a little more sense of this. So let's go back to that first thing that happened, right? So the first thing, if you guys remember back at the beginning of our journey, was we knew that a third party was compromised and they were able to get into our internal resources. So that third party was our managed service provider. And it was none of the managed service providers on this call in our chat. It was a completely different managed service provider. Okay, just making that clear. We know that they have endpoint management software running and it's on an on-premise server. Oh no, what's happening? I hope nobody's getting flashbacks. Maybe I should do a trigger warning. But okay, so we know that our MSP, they're a small shop, and they seem to have a lot of turnover. It always seems like we're talking to a different person every time you open a ticket. And now there's just this chatter that their endpoint software's got kind of a vulnerability on it that attackers have been exploiting. And you're hearing tales from the land. The other companies have had their systems attacked by ransomware. But you haven't seen any of that. You have turned off your on-premise server like they told you to, and they said, hey, we have this tool. We can use this to check for indicators of compromise. Well, what do we do now? Heroes, we're sitting here waiting. Our server's turned off. We have this tool. What do we do?
And I think our heroes are going to get a brief second and pause here, which is maybe a little bit of cheating, but while we switch over to our game board. There we go.
Magic. This is fun.
All right. So I think do we have a game board up? Are you ready to go?
We don't have a Liz up though.
I'm just the voice. Can you hear my voice from above though?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
we can.
Oh, that's fine.
In
All
true
right.
DM fashion.
I am just the thing that makes things happen. All right, Tom, since you have played this before, and there I am. You're the hero we're gonna call first. So we're waiting. What do we do, Tom?
We're waiting. Do we disconnect from the internet before we turn the server back on so we can do some testing?
Well, that sounds like a plan. We could do that.
I would actually just pull the Ethernet cable out of the back of the server.
Yeah.
But I would go back in time and not turn it off and just pull the Ethernet back out of the server to begin with. But that's me.
We have lots of time travel capabilities in this land, so cool. You've gone back in time. You just took that out. Okay, cool. What else are you doing?
Well, if it's me, I am probably calling insurance.
Okay. What is and your cyber insurance says, do you have an incident? What do you tell them?
I would inform them that I might have an incident and that we are researching indicators of compromise now, and that we will re-inform them when we see that we might have actual indicators of compromise.
Yeah. Plus 10,000 life points for being the first person to ever start off with. I call my cyber insurance company. So good for you. All right. Just for sakes, and Novus is backup and bandwidth. I mean, have you checked on your backups?
Yes, absolutely. Look at, follow the process, make sure that where the backups are weren't sharing credentials with anything else that could have been compromised. Double checking that.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. So we're at the point where we know that there is a patch that's been developed. We're kind of waiting for that to go. We want to run something on our system. What are we going to run on it? What did that third part, what did the MSP give us?
I don't know. What did the MSP give us? Can we inquire about what the actual thing they gave us was?
Yes, they gave you a script, and they said the script will check for for indicators of badness on your server?
Audit the script.
Yeah, what is the script written in?
Okay, that's good. All right, so you're looking at the script, you're checking it out. Are you testing it on anything?
Yeah, I'm testing it on the laptop I would take to DEF CON. Yeah, I mean that's where I'd go. I don't know if I don't trust anything from the MSP if they might be popped at this point, right? Like, how do I know that there's somebody's not in their email giving me bad scripts?
Yeah.
That's very good. So what do you do to, go ahead and check the server to make sure that it's not compromised then? If you're not going to run their script, what are you going to do?
I'm gonna let Drew answer. I mean, I can own this conversation, so we should probably let
Heroes jump in at any time.
At the point, I'm probably going to refer back to my insurance because they're probably going to want to bring in their own incident response people to do forensics.
Yeah, they do. But luckily it's my team. My team's coming in. They're amazing. They're like, cool, you're on our panel. We will cover their expenses. We're very happy to have joined you. Now you've got my IR team backing you up. So you can also call on your forensic provider for any additional questions you may have. And so your forensics provider says, hey, I've got a script for you, right? And what the script is going to do is going to collect some things off of that server for me. I need you to get it to that server and run it, the server that you disconnected from the internet. So how do you do it?
I'm probably gonna use a known good USB stick and copy the thing to that from basically a throwaway device. I would say I would use a CD or DVD. Those are things that like people just entering technology haven't even heard of. So and servers haven't had media optical drives for a long time. So we're probably gonna have to use some sort of mass storage device that we attach to it.
So my floppy drives are out of the question.
Yeah, I mean, I think somewhere I do have a USB floppy drive around here. We could totally use that.
All right. And so you run that script, you get it, and we have the time travel capability. It's run, it's collected, it's given back to your provider, and they have some news for you. Drew, I think we're gonna need a roll. We're gonna need a roll to see what your third-party provider or forensic firm has to tell you.
Oh, 20. This might be 20.
Tell me to roll it, or do you guys pull up?
Oh, I rolled something.
Okay.
Oh, there's a button.
Yeah,
There's a button?
How do I get to this button?
It's too small for me to see what the actual answer was.
I think that's 16.
Oh,
that's
16. That's amazing. All right. So 16, actually the server was clean. Yes, nobody actually touched it. All right. So I mean,
Are we done?
you were lucky. I don't know. Okay, so that server's there. Like there's no indicators of compromise on it. And good news, it's now been 10 days and we're waiting for the patch on the server for a while. They finally have one, and they're like, hey, we want you to patch it. Now, Jason, I think you're gonna roll a die and tell us whether or not we are going to use that patch.
Okay. Oh, I found the dice. Okay, I'm rolling a dice. And D20. There you go. And roll.
Is that 11?
I
feel like I'm gonna die.
15. 15.
15.
Oh, also, you did not know that your DM has severe optical issues today. But okay, so it's a pass. Okay, so with our pass, that means this patch was actually good. I don't have to do, we're passing. So we isolated our server appropriately. We know that the server is clean. We have audited all our users' procedures. We're ready to patch, clean up any grossness, and reboot. However, if you had failed, you would have actually had to wait to the third patch they put out to actually get this fixed, and your whole environment would have been hosed. So good thing that we passed. All right, so now we've got this clean server, and your dungeon master steals her CEO's DeLorean, and we travel to the future again. And so now we're in the future at our after action meeting because we're a company who has these after every major incident, and good for us, right? We're great. We want to talk about this one particular thing that happened. So what are some of the future things we could have done not to have been put in this position in the first place?
Oh, I have to be politically correct here, don't I?
Yeah.
No.
I know. Be careful about the vendor you choose.
Yeah, I mean, but as an end user, right? So I presume here we're playing the end user and
Right.
not the MSP, right? Like as an end user, I don't necessarily have visibility or care into the tools that my MSP uses, right? Like because I buy service from them, I don't buy tools from them. So that's a little hard. As an end user, I mean, things went well right now, right? So, we probably ought to be requesting what our MSP security policies are and, what they are actually doing to protect our systems.
Yeah,
And
this
how are they
certainly
gonna
is.
stop this in the future.
How are
And
they
in
going to stop
addition,
us in the future? How are they going to notify you? Are
what due
these
diligence do they use on their vendors to ensure that their vendors are following best practices?
is it in their contract to notify you if they have a breach, right? So those are all things we want to think about for the future. All right, so we're going to go, but we're just get back in that DeLorean, go back in time. All right, so remember back, I don't actually know if this happened in the original game, but so it did in this world. So the attackers have used the tool Responder for LLMNR poisoning in your environment to gather the credentials for your entire Active Directory network. Based on the analysis of our super awesome third-party forensic provider, we know that the attacker had domain privileges and used TeamViewer to remotely access our environment from an IP address that geolocates to Russia. Our fearless incident response team, these heroes, you have determined that you want to do an enterprise password reset. We have a few thousand users and a ridiculous amount of service provider accounts that all have elevated privileges. How do we do this password reset?
Correct.
And
So much crying.
which of our heroes wants to respond?
I grab a bottle of Makers first. Start there.
I
That
think
break
that
in
is.
case of glass, the whiskey. Okay, we've got that.
I mean, we're going to want to script that using some sort of tool. Obviously, you can't do it at scale with that many users manually, right? So, so first of all, I actually am probably not going to password reset most of those accounts. I'm probably going to disable them, and we can approach whether or not they need admin access. Like, let's go to our instant response playbook and look at our most important services. Start with the accounts that it requires, determine if they need administrative access, and reset those ones first.
How long is that going to take?
A bit, 8 hours, we'll call it.
Okay.
Assuming we have an instant response playbook, but I mean, based on the fact that we did no due diligence on our MSP, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we probably don't.
Yeah, sadly, I think that's in the Q3 plan that you were going to get some incident response playbook. So it's going to happen. You meant to do it, but it hasn't happened yet. So what about anything to our end users? Ian, anything you want to do in terms of communicating to your end users?
Yeah, I mean, first step, obviously, assuming that all of our end users are aware of this thing, given that we've had that meeting in the past. I'm going to be having a conversation with end users about password policy, password reset. Also, I'm going to be having conversations about two-factor authentication because I'm assuming, based on our conversation, that we don't have that in place, and I consider that like an absolute minimum requirement.
Okay.
We've got to make sure that we get that going.
So you want to, so the checkbooks have opened, and finally you have the approval. You can implement MFA. When do you do this? Do you do that before the password reset, after the password reset? What's your plan for this? And let's go to Drew.
I think we implement it with it. I think getting it on there is a great step. We're already making them reset their passwords. Let's tackle it all in one fell swoop, and it's going to, just in case we have an incident still occurring that we're not seeing, it's going to help protect the network in general. there's nothing worse than thinking you completely cleared a network and you haven't. So I think that's probably a good thing to get done right then and there, because MFA should be on everything anyways. So
thinking about that, just in terms of implementation. So now you've got thousands of users and all these service providers. You're resetting all their passwords, you're breaking them, and you're going to have them also sign up for MFA.
sucks, but
Bold.
Rip the band with it.
I mean, I like it.
Yeah.
It's a bold
Yeah.
plan. It's a good
Yeah.
plan. Let's see how that pans out. All right. And so let's see if there's anything else on my list. Oh, all right. Let's talk about just resetting some of your privileged users, right? Not just those, not just your service, all those service accounts, but your regular IT people. So Tom, what is your plan in sort of your who goes first, right? Which administrators are getting reset first? Are you just doing everybody at once?
I really like the kind of chaotic approach, because let's just get it into it, start switching as much as we can at once, that we were prepared to deal with the problem all at once as one big problem, as opposed to being painful over a week at a time.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
the problem with that and the strategy with that is you can't password reset without communicating with the user at some point, and there is definitely a limit. Like, you're going to break everything until everyone's reset, but there's definitely a limit to how quickly you can communicate with people.
Especially when everything is down, right? If your internet is off, you're out of your O365. What are you doing? Do you have OOB set up? Certainly something to think about. One last point on this before we do our roll. Did anybody want to think about all those people who have left our MSP, all those people who've come in and out, and all the accounts they had in your place? Does anybody want to look at those now?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, audit any
yeah.
account that hasn't logged in X number of days.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I mean,
All
that should
right.
be standard practice anyway.
I was gonna say, I forget some of these things
Aw.
aren't happening places these
Yes.
days.
Oh, what's this?
Oh, that was in the tome of best practices. Oh, so good. All right. So who hasn't had a chance to roll? Has everyone rolled?
Drew hasn't rolled. I don't.
I rolled.
Oh, Ian, have you rolled?
Yeah, I'll roll.
All right, Ian. So we have come up with all these strategies for enterprise password reset, and we're going to roll to see how well it went.
Oh my god.
3.
Oh, well, that's typical of my luck.
Well, sadly, Milton had code. He's one of your IT dudes. He coded passwords into a script that you didn't know about. And at first, everybody just thought that you were under attack because logins were just failing right and left, and everybody freaked out. Your CEO yelled at you, made you cry, and it's just a big old mess. But now you've got to clean it up.
Sounds like a customer I'm presently onboarding.
Oh yeah, never hire Milton. You just take a staplers and run. All right, so we're gonna hop back into our DeLorean and go to our after action meeting for this part. And our CEO was like, "What the hell happened? How could we have done this better?" Tom.
How could we have done it better? Not having everybody as admin. That would be the first one. Properly following principles of least privilege, setting up with people only the permissions they needed to get their job done and not an inch more. That's always great to say, hard to do.
What about what any of our heroes can answer this? What about the LLM? I can never say. I hate acronyms. LLMNR. What about that? Is that something we're gonna leave on?
No.
How do we fix that?
There is a registry key. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but there is definitely a registry key.
There is, and also you can use GPO to disable that.
Yeah.
So other things we could also think about, we could think about segmenting our network a little bit more. That might be nice.
Isolation, port blocking.
Yeah, and once those playbooks were written and everything else was done, honeypots would actually be a really good way to catch this. However, let's write a playbook first before we start putting in honeypots to catch things.
Oh, honeypots are shinier.
They're so much shinier, but let's figure out how to disable LLMR before we start putting in honeypots. Okay, so look, guys, this isn't your week. You finally gotten everything all reset, and everyone's been on pins and needles, just monitoring everything in the environment. Some systems decided not to rebuild because we were in a hurry. We just restored them from a random backup. Your amazing IR third party told you that they found a keylogger and a backdoor on Doris, the accounting lady's system. Doris just loves to surf the internet for unusual online gambling sites, and she loves to talk on the phone. Legal has now called us in, and they want to know what the risk of exposure is because of Doris.
Why is it always the accounting people? Do they just learn bad cyber hygiene in accounting school?
Yes.
Yes, that is actually a course. That's before you get a CPA thing, they actually ask you this. Yeah.
The risk is pretty high, right? Like possible compromised banking info, possible compromised
HR info, because that accounting
HR.
person is usually
doing payroll. I mean,
Financial access to just generally all the finances of the company. So
yeah, especially with a backdoor and a keylogger. If it's just a keylogger, it'd just be things they were typing. So passwords, I mean, if we have a keylogger, we definitely have passwords that have been lost. So anything that person has ever logged into needs passwords rotated.
and notifying vendors, because look out for scams sending fake invoices and things like that. That's actually a frequent one. Accounting people are the source of a lot of that.
Notifying employees that their personal information has potentially been compromised.
Providing them credit protection and identity protection and all the fun things that come with that.
Yeah. So one thing too, just to point out, do you just know this because you know Doris and you know she's a problem and you know accountants are problems? But what if you had a really large company and you knew she was an accounting probably bad, but you didn't actually know what was on Doris's system? Like, how could you get the legal team answer to the questions of their risk?
I mean, you'd have to do forensics as to what's on the machine, but I'm not even sure that helps in the end, because, you know, it's on her machine and anything she has access to in theory, right? Because if there's a backdoor on her machine, then any session she has, assuming you don't have the multi-factor, you know, you're allowing refresh tokens to be a thing. You just wait till she's gone home for the day, launch the browser and stay logged into whatever she's logged into, especially if it's SSO. It's 365 SSO. Yeah, not good.
Again, I'm sorry if you're triggered, but so we're going to roll to see if you had access to all of that information, or whether or not you are just making things up for your lawyers. As sometimes I would never advise anybody to do that. But Drew, why don't you go ahead and roll?
Don't let Ian roll. His charisma's like
Yeah,
two.
we don't.
Yeah, not good.
5.
Oh no. So it is going to take forever, and you have to piece together those
Still better than
answers.
3.
It is better than a 3. So we're sad, and we think, we don't know what's going to happen to Doris, but it's not good. It's not good. So we go to our after action meeting for the incident, and our CIO wants to know what we could do in the future to prevent this. How do we fix Doris?
I would start with an inventory, because that's sometimes a challenge with accounting. They don't just use apps on the system. It's a full SaaS inventory of all the sites they log into and having a very clear list of them, so we would know what passwords would need to be changed. That's sometimes a little fuzzier than it should be.
Yeah, but you need data access control and data process documents and data flow diagrams and all the things that come with data loss prevention. And so basically you need to do the entire control 3 of CIS to stop this from happening in the future.
Yeah, I not to talk bad about any of my past clients, but there are a number of times when people have no idea what they had access to, what was on their system, or other things. What about just the browser itself? What could we do to prevent that browser extension from getting onto Doris's system?
Don't allow installation of browser extensions.
There you go. That one's pretty easy. Or you could also do an allow deny list, right? And just limit software installation to trusted sources. What about Doris herself? Do we need to have something to talk with Doris?
Human vulnerability training.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone should get security awareness training, but people in accounting should get extra security awareness training because we have to undo that class.
I like within the chat, Andy Klein, who just said, is Doris's actions against your policies? Should Doris have been gambling online using her system to go to online gambling sites in the first place?
Yeah, personal use on business equipment definitely frowned upon and should have a policy in place.
Yeah, especially
I
when
think HR is going to be calling her.
Yeah. So I think that's going to go to our next thing. So again, our Mason Forensics partner has come to us with some news, but it's not great. The attacker was using web services as C2. We don't really know what was being said because it was all over SSL and TLS encryption, but they tracked it down to HR and they tracked it down to Doris's friend Nina. And Nina wants to know, she doesn't know what happened, but she wants to know, did you see this website with all the monkeys? She found it through an email from her friend, and her friend, it was Doris. Doris sent her the email. Doris. Oh, so once again, we are at our future after action meeting, and we're being asked, what do we do?
I mean,
Is Mina an internal employee or just a friend of Doris?
She is an internal employee in HR.
what do you do when you have HR people not following HR policy?
Yeah.
I think you go. They HR themselves. I think that's what happened. They had a stern. They have a stern meeting with
Flashback
themselves.
now of that happening.
You need meta HR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All your personal, you're figuring out where trouble you're in.
It basically, I mean, it comes down to looking at the organization structure, seeing who needs to know that information and who needs to make sure that the employees are following the policies above that person and enforcing that. And it, along with, it's not always a technical solution to personnel problems.
Yeah, I mean, there are technical solutions to a lot of these problems. There are policy and procedure issues, and then following the policies and procedures, right? So, like, I think it's Wayne Sell always says, process, people, technology in that order, right? So we need to have our processes in place to train our people and then pick our technology based on those two.
Yep, that's certainly a thing. What about just the attacker being able to use, and in this case, it was Twitter, but it could be Twitter, Gmail, other things, just as basically using social media as a CT platform. What are some of the things we could put in place to prevent that from happening?
You can block those things. That tends to be a relatively unpopular opinion, though. And
My favorite opinion.
it is, but I mean, okay, you just pivot them to somewhere else, right? Like it's like literally anything that can send any message can be used as C2 within a org. So it's definitely a game of whack-a-mole. We should have policies in place that indicate whether or not you can talk to those things, and then we should review things that are not meeting that policy. You're not allowed to talk to Twitter, and we see things starting to talk to Twitter, then we probably ought to alert on that.
So what would you use to see what are things talking to Twitter?
I mean, DNS monitor is an easy one.
Definitely DNS monitoring.
Filtering.
I hate SSL inspection, so I wasn't going to go there.
Well, there's ways around it, as you know, without doing that. So DNS, but through utilities loaded on their system, so we're not trying to break SSL inspection.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Right. So I think it's time, because we've got about 10 minutes left in the session. It's time for our last roll, our last in check. It is time to renew the contract with our MSP. Who's going to roll the dice to see what happens? Who wants to take this into their hands? Ian, it's time to redeem yourself. Ian, roll.
All right.
9.
Ugh. We were close, at least.
Oh, and it's a fail. So that just means everything stays the same. You keep the same MSP, they keep doing their bad things, and your life continues to be a nightmare.
Everyone dies.
If
Rocks fall, everyone dies.
rocks while everyone dies. The internet takes over. We're controlled by our cat overlords, which is, it could be worse. If we
Yeah,
had,
happen.
we have passed, what would have happened is we would have hopefully either gotten a new MSP or worked on our contract with them. And either one, we want to work on that contract is key. You want to have your legal team with you, understand what your MSP is required to notify you about, require them to have MFA, require them to have password complexity. And now I'm going to open up. What other things would you guys want in this contract?
Know the standards and best practices for my industry outside of the standard 800.171 or CIS controls, and know that they are enforcing those as well. If I have a records retention policy, they should know that. They should be familiar with that. I shouldn't be telling them how to do their job.
Absolutely. What else?
I want to see, again, you mentioned it earlier, but breach responsibility notifications, their call list, I might go as far as to ask them for their incident response plan.
Should they be required to have one?
Yes. As a matter of fact, they should be helping me make my own. If I'm
Wouldn't that be nice, right? You should be working together on your incident response plans with your MSP. They should be, at your tabletops. They should be playing backdoors and breaches with you.
They should be running your tabletops, not just at them.
Very true. All right. Anything else you want to think about within those contracts?
Very clear scope definitions for what
Yeah.
is or is not covered. That way we never worry about the MSP saying, that's not my problem that she goes to a website that we didn't know about. So clear scope definition is probably important.
Yeah, I'm pretty keen on responsibility matrices these days. Who's responsible for what? Because I feel like most of the time we get in trouble with our customers. It's a mismatch between what they think we're responsible for and what we think we're responsible for. So let's lay that out on paper.
And honestly, I think that pretty much applies to a lot of things in security, really understanding it keeps you from pointing fingers at people, right? Like, oh, I thought so-and-so was supposed to be doing this when, it was everybody's responsibility. So just, having those responsibilities for your MSP, for your incident response team, and for, all of your third-party providers is going to be really good to get you along. I think we're, almost out of time. Any closing thoughts?
This was fun. I kind of want to do it again in another setting.
Yeah, in a higher bandwidth setting too.
We can get all the bandwidth for the next time. All right, Jonathan, all the bandwidth and all the backups. All right, well, thank you guys for playing. It was really fun being your dungeon master. Jonathan, I'm going to turn this over to you.
How many of you am I seeing next week, though?
Wow, thank you so much, Liz. You were incredible. What an amazing dungeon master. You must have done this before.
I've worked a tabletop or two, but
amazing scenarios. Thank you so much again for coming on and doing that. I could tell. I mean, you did. We had some great players there, and you've made them think about some things, which is the whole point of this, right? So, thank you so much again for doing that. TrustedSec, you guys are great. You're super community minded in terms of giving out free resources. We actually just gave a shout out to your Sysmon community guide that you have available. Is there anything else that you want us to point to or that we could link to, like in terms of resources?
Obviously, you can always go to TrustedSec.com and that'll, pull up, all of our wonderful services that we have. If you're into Sysmon, there is actually a really great web series that one of our guys, Carlos, just put out. And it's basically, I think there's like 10 editions of it so far, really digs into it. It's super cool. I would highly recommend checking that out if you want to know more about Sysmon.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. I will find a link for that. Very awesome. I appreciate it again. And Liz, I hope we can lure you back in once we address some other things in here. It'd be really cool to do this again. So maybe we can make that happen.
Anytime. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you. Take care. All right, everybody. We made it to the end of the first day. Just as with any adventure, right? There are some twists and turns. There are challenges to be overcome. Man, every one of you here in the chat have made it to the end. You are the real heroes. Thank you so much for bearing with us. We're going to get to work with fine tuning some things, and we're going to try this again tomorrow. We will have another session of Backdoors and Breaches. It won't be the same scenario. It won't be Liz. It'll be Dan Myers, our product manager. He's got something really cool, and by cool, I mean evil and diabolical, that he's cooking up. And then we've got some great sessions that are geared towards getting buy-in from your board, working through cyber insurance, cyber governance, all sorts of cool stuff. So give us another shot. Come back tomorrow. In the meantime, we're going to go back to work here, and I'm going to be putting together a big list of resources to get everybody. So thank you so much again, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.